Right.
Yet you said you weren't a part of that lifestyle, you weren't going to the parties. So what makes you so absolutely sure that these kinds of allegations that we've seen against him are true?
Well, I'm surprised by the allegations, as surprised as everyone else is. Like, I didn't make the allegations, I didn't tell people to say these things. It comes out, I see it in the news like everyone else, but I did.
Let's pull back the curtain. What you're about to hear isn't just industry gossip. It's a forensic breakdown of a modern media chess game, where the true story isn't in the documentary that aired, but in the footage that was cut, the voices that were silenced, and the staggering allegations that a powerful system might be protecting itself by sacrificing a single, high-profile king. The narrative began cleanly, powerfully.
It left out too many things.
So can you speak on Curtis Jackson? 50 Cent said that this is the first one.
I'm
he said
sure.
that there's hundreds of hours of more footage.
I'm sure there was hundreds of hours of that was confiscated from all of Diddy's homes in that HSI raid that never made it to the trial.
In late 2023, following the seismic shock of Sean Diddy Combs' arrest on a web of federal charges, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson announced a partnership with Netflix. The Project, a documentary tentatively titled Diddy Do It, promised as the definitive evidence-based excavation of the bad boy mogul's empire, built not on rumor, but on years of gathered material, first-hand accounts, and most tantalizingly, never-before-seen footage. The public face was 50 Cent, the platinum-selling rapper and savvy media mogul turned apparent truth-teller. The goal, as he framed it, was to challenge long-standing false narratives. The implication was that the full, unvarnished truth about Diddy Combs was finally coming to light.
The lady was talking greasy to me. She had no right to talk greasy to me. And then she told me that 50 didn't have the power to do anything, but they using his name to like push the whole documentary. And that's what it was about.
And according to those close to the situation.
But almost immediately after the documentary's release in late 2024, a counter-narrative began to emerge from the shadows. It wasn't from Diddy's camp, not at first. It came from the very people who were supposed to be the documentary's star witnesses, its most credible sources. Their verdict was damning and unanimous. The project was, in their words, done too well. It was too polished, too neat, and in its sleek production, it had left out too many things. This critique sparked a sprawling, complex secondary story, one about media control, unspoken industry codes, and the terrifying possibility that Diddy Combs was not the end of the story, but merely a contained beginning. To understand how we got here, we must start with the man who many considered the documentary's would-be linchpin, Gene Deal. For decades, Gene Deal wasn't just Diddy's head of security. He was a shadow, a confidant, a first-hand witness to the rise of bad boy records, from the gritty streets of New York to global dominance.
Well, first and foremost, you know, I thought I was going to be in the documentary at first until I started talking to that director. I think her name is Stapleton. I don't know her name. The right here, I don't know, man. Me and 50 talked like 45 minutes. The producers had been calling me and everything. So this one night, 50 called me up. And you know, they got him on the phone, me and him was just talking.
In the years since leaving Diddy's employ, Deal had become a controversial but compelling figure on various online platforms, claiming to possess a treasure trove of insider knowledge. He spoke of possessing photographs, witness statements, and even video materials pertaining not only to Diddy's personal conduct, but to the most painful chapters in hip-hop history. The murders of the Notorious B, I, G, and Tupac Shakur. The violent bad boy versus death row Coast War, the alleged criminal underpinnings of the music industry's glamour. When 50 Cent announced his documentary, the public immediately asked, will Gene Deal be in it? If the documentary promised raw truth, Deal was viewed as its most volatile source. According to Deal himself, in extensive interviews given after the doc's release, 50 Cent reached out to him directly. Deal describes a lengthy, 45-minute phone call with Jackson, where the vision was laid out. Deal asserts that compensation was discussed and agreed upon. This was not, for him, a free endeavor. But he is adamant that his motivation transcended money. He frames it as a moral imperative, to finally provide documented corroboration to stories he'd been telling for years, and to stand behind 50 Cent's public mission of transparency. Feeling aligned with this mission, Deal says he began the serious work of a primary source. He organized his claimed archives, He reached out to other key figures he believed were essential to a complete picture. He names two in particular.
If you can make a picture look like $10,000, $15,000, you know what I'm saying? You can sit here and tell me that you're gonna pay me for my time sitting right down here with y'all. You understand? So then, one thing led to another, and I was like, all right, well then, F you, I spoke to 50, and then she said 50, and this is exact words that came out her mouth. 50 does not determine what goes in and goes out of this documentary.
Kirk Burroughs, a former Bad Boy A&R executive who could speak to the business machinations and alleged financial betrayals. And another man named Tim, who could detail Diddy's personal history and formative years. Deal envisioned a three-pillar structure: Kirk on business, Tim on personal history, and himself on the volatile, often dangerous street and security reality that formed the backdrop of the empire. This was the blueprint Gene Deal believed he was collaborating on with 50 Cent. But then he says he had a direct conversation with a Netflix producer, a woman he recalls as named Stapleton. And in his telling, this conversation shattered his faith in the entire project. His description of the call is heated. He claims her tone was dismissive, confrontational, greasy. She reiterated, he says, the standard documentary line that participants are not paid for interviews. Deal, a streetwise former security chief, pushed back, arguing that in high-profile projects, compensation is always negotiated. It's an open secret. The conversation grew more tense. Then Deal alleges she delivered the line that made him walk away. 50 does not determine what goes in and go out of this documentary, and he definitely don't determine what somebody get paid. It's not his documentary like that. For Gene Deal, this was the ultimate red flag. If 50 Cent, the public face, the initiator, the one he had a man-to-man agreement with, was not in creative or financial control, then who was? And what was their objective? Deal's conclusion was stark. Netflix, the corporate platform, was using 50 Cent's credibility and street reputation to legitimize a product they ultimately controlled. He believed the goal was not journalistic truth or victim-centered storytelling, but a commercially viable, sensational, yet manageable series. The most explosive, legally precarious, and industry-implicating testimony his own was, in his view, being deliberately marginalized. He felt the project was a setup, not to expose the full truth, but to create a controlled narrative. He walked away. He was not alone in his boycott. Enter Jaguar Wright, the fiercely independent R&B singer and outspoken industry critic. Wright was also approached for the documentary. Like Deal, she entered discussions, but ultimately refused to participate. Her reasoning, while sharing Deal's distrust of the machinery, zoomed out to a terrifying, systemic scale. In a series of blistering post-release live streams and interviews, Wright laid out her thesis. She accused the documentary of containing deliberate misinformation and omissions. She stated she refused to be part of what she saw as an industry-sanitized production, where executives would never greenlight material that could implicate themselves or their powerful peers. When the documentary aired, Wright claimed her worst suspicions were confirmed. She pointed to glaring, deliberate absences. Where, she demanded, were the industry titans inextricably linked to Diddy's circle and power. Names like Clive Davis, the legendary founder of Arista Records, who signed and mentored a young Puff Daddy. Like Jay-Z, whose Roc Nation empire and personal friendship with Diddy placed him at the center of the same elite hip-hop echelon. Like Oprah Winfrey, who had Diddy as a frequent guest, and whose own network featured him prominently. Wright's argument is a profound one. She reframes Diddy not as a singular monster, a fall guy, a designated scapegoat. She notes the irony of the federal government employing RICO statutes, laws designed to dismantle criminal organizations and enterprises against Diddy, while the public narrative focuses almost exclusively on him as an individual predator. Her chilling question: if this is a RICO case, where is the rest of the enterprise? Who are the alleged co-conspirators, the enablers, the beneficiaries who turned a blind eye? She pushes the logic further, questioning the fundamental premise that one man could operate so brazenly for so long without a network of complicity. How does that work? She asks sarcastically. Diddy is just out here alone doing all this, and all these powerful, connected people around him are just shocked every time? For Wright, the documentary's failure to seriously explore these connections is not an oversight. It is the entire deliberate point. The goal, she asserts, is containment.
He announced he was going to be doing the documentary December 2023 with Netflix. And the star footage that you use to get people to re-upload or resubscribe to Netflix to make this.
Isolate the cancer to one visible tumor and remove it, leaving the host body, the lucrative global entertainment industry, healthy and intact. She warns that a full, uncontained truth would be economically cataclysmic. The entertainment industry collapses completely. Millions, possibly billions in advertising, endorsements, deals, it all evaporates. This critique of sanitization finds a surprising echo in 50 Cent's own post-release comments. In interviews, Jackson has revealed that the final product was a drastic reduction of a much larger body of material. He has stated there are hundreds of hours of additional footage that didn't make the cut. He specifically mentioned the exclusion of stories like that of former model Sarah Chapman. This admission from the executive producer himself validates the core complaint of Deal and Wright. The documentary was, by necessity or design, incomplete. Gene Deal reacts to this with skepticism. I don't really believe that, he has said. A documentary is a documentary.
You understand? I don't really believe that, because a documentary is the documentary. And they could have had 45 minutes, they could have had an hour, to each one of those. You understand? They left out certain things. He said they even left out the one about Sarah Chapman.
They could have made it 10 episodes. They could have had an hour each on specific things. They chose not to. He believes his blueprint, the three-pillar structure with him, Kirk and Tim, was appropriated and then gutted, his contribution removed to dilute the potency of the final product. Yet, in a fascinating twist, both Gene Deal and other minor figures who interacted with the production go out of their way to defend 50 Cent's personal intentions. Freddie P., a fringe commentator who made allegations about Diddy's sons, says he spoke directly with 50 and his team. He came away believing Jackson's motive was unique and altruistic within the industry. Clip insert, audio of Freddie P. It wasn't even about the money for them. The response was like, we want people who really was affected to tell their story. We don't want to base this on money. Because when you base it on money, it sinks the whole thing, it compromises the truth. I had to give them respect for that. He made sure you was only here to tell it if you wanted to tell it. This creates a compelling dichotomy. 50 Cent, the individual, is viewed by these sources as a genuine actor seeking transparency. 50 don't move like Puff, Deal has stated, drawing a clear ethical line. He's not about hiding things, he's about exposing them. The villain, in their shared view, becomes the corporate intermediary Netflix and the unnamed industry pressures they believe dictated the final edit.
And Porter. The rapper is also dad to 34-year-old son Quincy and daughters Chan.
This is the rationale behind the rumors that 50 Cent is now exploring a completely independent season 2, possibly for a platform like YouTube, where he would have total creative and editorial control to release the hundreds of hours of sideline material. However, exiting the controlled arena of media production and entering the real world, the consequences turned dangerous. Gene Deal began issuing public warnings, not just critiques, but genuine alarms for 50 Cent's safety and reputation. He stated that by spearheading this project, 50 had made himself a target for the most powerful entities in music. Deal's warning was not abstract. He alleged that retaliation would come in the form of a character assassination campaign, digging into 50 Cent's past relationships, his baby mama dramas, any and all personal controversies to paint him as a hypocrite and dismantle his credibility. They're going to try to get girls that he probably dated, that he had problems and issues with. You understand? They trying to retaliate on what he did. Almost as if on cue, the counteroffensive materialized with stunning speed. Mere days after Deal's warnings, a new trailer dropped.
Baby mama stories, they're gonna try to get 50 baby mama stories. They're gonna try to get girls that he probably dated, that he had problems and issues with and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna try to do the same thing they probably did to R. Kelly or Puff or whatever like that, and people tell their stories. You understand? But they trying to retaliate.
It was from the Zeus network, founded by entrepreneur Lemuel Lem Plummer. The subject, Diddy Combs. But this time, the narrative would be controlled by his sons, Justin and Christian Combs. The trailer showed the young man in a sleek screening room, surrounded by negative headlines about their father. The climax, Justin's phone rings. On the screen flashes, a collect call from Federal Correctional Institution Fort Dix. Diddy himself would be a participant from prison. The documentary was slated for 2026. The public reaction was a mix of outrage and cynicism. Many saw it as a blatant, orchestrated public relations campaign, using Diddy's children to humanize him and reframe the narrative as one of a persecuted family. Critics immediately connected it to scenes in the Netflix documentary that showed Diddy allegedly coaching Justin on media manipulation. They recalled the real-life courtroom scenes where Justin and Christian wore free Diddy shirts in front of the jury, resulting in their removal by the judge, an act of PR that mirrored the very strategy hinted at in the leaked footage. Gene Deal watched this development with a grim sense of prophecy fulfilled. He saw the Zeus documentary as the opening salvo in the retaliation he predicted. First of all, they're gonna try to get his baby mama stories, he reiterated. But he also issued a challenge back to the industry. Don't throw no stone if you live in a glass house. I believe 50 ready for it. So, we are left in a stalemate of narratives, a sprawling, real-life drama with profound implications. On one side, the Netflix documentary stands as an official, Academy Award-winning production that undeniably shifted public perception and contributed to a cultural moment of accountability.
Acting the way in which he was acting. And that's it, but it was nothing whereas that you could say like, yo.
On the other, it stands accused by its own would-be sources of being a controlled demolition, a spectacular, yet carefully limited, explosion that brings down one structure while protecting the surrounding city. The questions it deliberately or accidentally raises are now larger than the documentary itself. If Gene Deal possesses the evidence he claims, why was his testimony, which would connect Diddy's alleged personal misconduct to the wider, violent history of hip-hop's most infamous era, deemed too hot for Netflix? Is Jaguar Wright's scapegoat theory merely conspiratorial, or does it explain the puzzling absence of other powerful names from a story about systemic abuse of power? What is contained in the hundreds of hours of footage 50 Cent alludes to? Does it include the materials allegedly confiscated in the Homeland Security Investigations raids on Diddy's homes that, as commentators note, never made it to trial? Is the Zeus Network documentary a genuine family defense, or the first move in the character assassination campaign against 50 Cent that Gene Deal warned about? The final haunting question, posed by Jaguar Wright, hangs over it all. Do you believe Diddy was acting alone? The answer to that question determines everything. If the answer is yes, the story ends with his sentencing. If the answer is no, then the Netflix documentary is not an ending, but a prologue. The real story, the story of the ecosystem that cultivated, enabled, and profited from such a figure for decades, remains almost entirely untold, existing only in the gaps, the silences, and the hundreds of hours of footage sitting on a hard drive, waiting for a platform brave enough or a man powerful enough to hit play. This is no longer just about a documentary. It's a live feed from the front lines of a war over narrative, power, and history itself. The images have been broadcast, but the signal, it seems, is still being scrambled. And the truth, as they say, may still be out of frame.